Hey, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I'm feeling a little bit better, but please don't comment and tell me I look rough, because I just looked in the mirror and I'm ready to concede that you are right. Well, we had a lot of we've had a lot of comments on a few things to do with hygiene, and I would like to comment on this because there's a certain, not a certain amount, there's a great deal of irony against anyone who has an aversion to certain things being done. Now, one of the most common complaints was eating with hands. Well, eating with hands is all about cleanliness, isn't it? You would expect to go and eat. Well, when we do our big cookouts, which we arrive at, say, the swimming pool, and we've got maybe 80 or 100 kids, and we're going to feed them, then it's the banana leaves on a long table, and the kids tuck in. The food is just tipped out onto the center. The pork, the lechon, will be separated and broken into bits so that everybody gets some. And the assumption is that everybody will wash their hands. Yes, right. Children always do that, don't they? I can remember my mother looking at me and saying, "Get back in there and wash. You've got a bloody tide mark around your neck that's thicker than God knows what." She was a poet, my mother. So, we assume that that will be the case. We assume lots of things about hygiene which may or may not be true. For instance, it's always assumed that dogs will be dirty. And yet, they have found that when a child has a dog, they are more likely, because of the connection with a dog, which has dog-like habits. They have different bathroom rituals that they go through, which are certainly not anything that you or I would be interested in having. And yet, when kids are closely associated with dogs, they are likely to have less of the childhood diseases and maladies, colds and flu and stuff like that. They seem to be healthier. I even saw one video, which you may still be able to see on YouTube, where the girl was saying that the title, I think, of the video was "How to Get Your Teeth Cleaned." And what the kid did was she took a spoonful of peanut butter, and in she went, and she cleaned that spoon right off, and she was all gummed up as you are with peanut butter. And then she lay down, opened her mouth, and the dog, believe it or not, cleaned her teeth. well, even I thought, yes, no, well, yes, not really. So, what are we looking at? We're looking at eating with hands. We're looking at a serving spoon. Now, some people were horrified at the idea that we were eating our food with spoon and fork, some of us, and then helping ourselves to rise from the middle of the table with the spoon that we've been eating with. So there was that aspect. There was the little, oh gosh, it developed into an entire drama that Beth was not seen to be washing the rice, even though it was just for the dogs. She apparently was seen to be not washing the rice. So people have these firm convictions about how things should and shouldn't be done. But let's look at the food that you eat, that you take for granted, is perfectly prepared, totally hygienic, and good for you. Look at McDonald's. There was a famous, relatively famous, well-known one that said, "Supersize this," and the guy went for, I think he went for a few months and all he ever ate during that time was McDonald's. And then it was revealed that people, as people do, they jump on the bandwagon and they say, yeah, well, and I even did this myself, talking about the French fries. What do they do to the French fries that makes them just stay French fries forever? I mean, it was almost like if they'd had McDonald's when the pyramids were built, there would be a large order of French fries with the McDonald's sign on it, and it would be in there in the Tutankhamun's esophagus. Is it esophagus? I think it is. Anyway, they'd be in there with the grave, and they'd look exactly the same, even though they're 4,000 years old. I didn't do it 4,000 years old, even I am not that old, but I did get some French fries. I left them in the pack, and I just stuck them on top of the fridge. And a month later, a month or maybe even more, I took them down. Well, even the ants didn't want them, and they looked exactly the same. They looked as if you stuck them in the microwave, they might even taste the same. So there's a good example of how we should question what is done to the food that we have, where in cases where the packers in a supermarket actually pack the shelves every night, and they come in and every night. Now let's say that there's a not quite so popular product. I don't know. Looking at this, I got one here, but right, this is peanut butter, I think, because and it would be. This is totally as I received it. I think it's even sealed. Let me see. Am I going to be proved wrong? There, look. So it's on my desk for no other reason that I just didn't bother to take it down. So how long has that been there? That's been there for a couple of months now. It's got a sell-by date. Wherever did that idea come from, that when they were planning this in wherever they planned it, in the manufacturers, did the scientists come forward and say, well, hey, this is great. We can guarantee that this is going to be good to eat for 3 months. So here we are, January, February, March, April. We're good for April. And even after that, you get people, certainly in the Philippines, going to the sell-by date, sold, unsold, and they can buy the food even though it's not guaranteed. And it will be the same as, probably, as the first month that it was put out. Well, what do they do to that? And then the people who stock the shelves, supposing they don't bring all the stuff at the back to the front in order to be able to get the new stuff at the back, taking its like a rotor, and it's circulating it from the back to the front. I wonder if you were under real pressure to get the damn shelves stocked, would you be so conscientious? I don't know. Please, if we have got somebody who does this for a job and is a subscriber, don't unsubscribe me, please. My remark is entirely innocent. What else do we do? Foods. Food is cooked by hand. Now, if you look on, if you're into horror stories, you can find probably hundreds of thousands of horror stories of all kinds on YouTube. I'm in a few of them myself at the moment, okay. But there's even one of a guy who is a waiter, and he is spitting in somebody's food. Now, I've got it down here on my note. Waiters get angry on their way back to the kitchen. The lesson is, you never win a fight with the man who is going to be picking up your food and bringing it to you. You never win a fight with the chef. It just doesn't happen. Now, when people have had a bad night and they haven't had any tips, and then you up and give them one of your very clever talks about what they should and shouldn't do with their job, excuse me, they go back to the kitchen angry. Then who knows what will happen. Now, a long time ago, I read a great book which you might want to see if you can find. It was called Down and Out in London and Paris. For the life of me, again, some things stick in my mind and some things don't. It's something to do with the cotton wool that's in there. Down and Out in London and Paris. It was a popular book at the time, about the year 1900 and frozen to death, probably, judging by my age. But this was a man who was, as his book suggests, his title suggests, he was down and out in London and in Paris, and a lot of the jobs that he did was as a washing up guy. I think, did he call that a plongeur? I could be wrong on that. Somebody French correct me on that, what they call the man who does all of the washing up. So maybe now it's all different. They have huge washing machines which actually sterilize everything that goes in there. So that's possible that happens now. Well, back then it didn't, and it all ended up in a series of huge stainless steel sinks, which started off swimming in food particles into another one that wasn't swimming quite so much into food particles, then into one that was relatively clean water, and then finally it was rinsed. And that was how your dishes and utensils were prepared. Not in Joe's Cafe, all right? It wasn't a transport cafe. These were the most famous hotels with famous chefs. Some of those famous chefs were in kitchens which were closed down because they had infestations of rats and cockroaches. Right. So they had to get organized pretty quickly. But how did it get to that point? It's human nature. People are in there and they're doing jobs which are probably menial in both their description and their pay, and sometimes they get even. It was a very amusing, I probably won't get it amusing when I tell it, but there was an amusing one where he is describing a waiter, and the waiter is one who is very smooth looking. He has his little moustache like this, and his hair is slicked back with Vaseline. I think that was what we used to do in the day. A parting in the middle and slicked back like this, and it stayed there all night. So he's on his way out with a steak for a fussy customer when he decides that because everything is so busy, he's going to go out the in door. These doors swing in and swing out, and they're clearly marked, and everybody keeps everything moving by going in the right door or out the right door, and he doesn't. And so the plate gets almost knocked out of his hand, but what does get knocked out of his hand is the nice huge steak. So obviously what should happen now is the meal goes back to the chef. He takes his rollicking like a man, and he waits with an impatient customer who will never give him a tip now, and that's what he should do. Does he do it? Oh, you are such an optimist, you know that. I love it. No, what he does is he leans down, he scoops. What can I put that looks like a steak? Nothing. He scoops it up. Well, maybe this one would be better. Scoops it up. He brushes off the stardust like this. turns it around like that to the greasy side, and he does it again, and then onto the plate he lays the steak, and then he runs his finger around the edge, but first he's a little bit ruffled, so he smooths his appearance because his appearance is very good to him, and then with his grease-laden hands around the thumb goes around the plate. And the presentation is as it was when he went out the wrong door. And then he goes back, and with the flourish of a professional waiter, he serves the man, the unsuspecting customer. Now, so let's get back to talking about a serving spoon. Now, a serving spoon should be, let's face it, it should be, in an ideal world, it should be on the dish that has the rice, or the main part has the chicken, or stuff like this, in these main dishes that are on the table. Personally, my mother never ever did that. It was just extra washing up. So, when it went in the kitchen, she took the plate and she dished it out a little bit like it might be done in prison or in the army, and you got what you were given. And if it wasn't enough, then you were able to go back and get a bit more. But you didn't have dishes in the middle. That was all very pretentious stuff to my mother. So, let's look at the serving spoon. Now, if you go as a Caucasian and go on vacation, or even go to meet your wife-to-be, or your girlfriend, or on a business trip, and you go to China, very much different in their way of eating. People describe some of the things that they've seen in Nanai's kitchen, some of the less poetic people, men of little charm, I always think, and they say, oh, just eating your mouth open like that, just like a pig, and they don't hold back on some of these things. So, you get that happening. In China, it's much, much worse, because they have a small bowl, what can we say? A small bowl like this. It's a little bit bigger than this, okay? And they have chopsticks. I always think that they deliberately have special chopsticks for the foreigner, because they like to humiliate the foreigners when they come over. This was my suspicion. So they put you next to a 2-year-old or 3-year-old child who can pick up one sweet corn and like this and put it in. Or remember the Karate Kid? Mr. Miyagi was telling him that in order to get really fast in his reactions, he had to be able to catch a fly. And the Karate Kid, of course, because it's Hollywood, you see, went and got the fly with the chopsticks. Well, I don't know that they're that skillful in China, but they certainly are very skillful, and children are brought up. That's what they do. They eat with chopsticks. Now, what happens is, my suspicion is based probably in a little paranoia, I'm forced to admit. They give you special chopsticks which are coated in Teflon. Nothing will stick to them. So you're in there, everybody else is eating like there's no tomorrow. They get the things in like this and they go, and they hold that little bowl up near the mouth and they just shovel it in. Well, if you've got these Teflon chopsticks, you can't do that. You'll keep doing that and putting empty chopsticks into your mouth. But I'm meandering again. My point was that the women on the table will take pity on you after they change your chopsticks, and they will put food into your bowl, and they will they will actually give you the choice pieces of meat, things that they think that you will enjoy. And guess what they do it with? They do it with their chopsticks, which they've been shoveling stuff into their gob for the last 10 minutes, and then they're going to help you to your food. So, if you're worrying about a serving spoon, here's a good tip. Don't go to China. That's a good one, okay? So, going to China, what else did I actually say? What do they do to fruit? There's that food that they're, is it GM? Is it, they've actually changed the molecular structure of it so that it will stay, so that it will be bigger, so that it will be apparently better, so that it will grow without seeds, so that it will grow in mid-air, thin air, whatever. And now in America, it's not even the law to say that it is fiddled about with. That's not the technical term for it, by the way. That's just something that I invented. So it's fiddled about with. So, and you don't know what they've done to it, and you don't know the side effects, and you don't know any of that, right? Any more than you know if the waiter came out the wrong door and slicked his hair back before he picked up your steak out of the sawdust. Now, your food is frozen, it's preserved to stay on shelves longer, hence the McDonald's example. Sorry, Mr. McDonald, okay. Now, did you know that those beautiful large apples, the ones that are like this, that look just gorgeous, and they are a red that equals Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Do you remember Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? She was the beautiful princess and an evil witch who transformed into the evil witch because she, well, you wouldn't believe she was evil if she was like the queen, who was, even though a little bit dark looking, was indeed a beauty. And the queen changed into the old lady who gave a beautiful apple. I'm sure that she got it from Safeways, because it was one of those that is painted red and then polished. Does that seem unlikely to you? Maybe not painting, but I've seen Chinese YouTube clips from Chinese where they are doing that, and they're painting food with an airbrush. We're trying to get so that we don't get worried about no serving spoon, right? What else? Well, it's sterilized. It has all of the life taken out of it. What do they do to milk? Do you know, when I was a kid, I went to a place in Wales called Carnarvon, and we went to a little camping site with my mum and dad and my brother and my sister. And we went to this camping site and we had a wonderful time. And one of the treats of that was that we went to a local farm. And what was great about the farm was that the milk came straight from what? A cow. It was a terrific shock to me, not to see that but Mum, it's not in a bottle. And she said, no, it's in an urn, right? That's the way it's supposed to be, and it comes. And then we watched the farmer milking the cow, and there he was squeezing that big bag that looked like part of a bagpipes into a big churn, not an urn, a churn. And then he gave us some of the milk, and it was thick and creamy and incredible. If you drank one of these, of that milk, it would be like a full meal. Now, here's the funny thing. We didn't immediately drop ill with God knows what that they're trying to save us from when they put our present milk through God knows what in terms of different things that they do to it. They kill everything in it which could give us some kind of a disease. And it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because when people talk about eggs, you're not supposed to eat eggs that have come straight from the chicken, because you might get this or bird flu or something. You might have bird flu on your shoes, and when you come back from China, where they have bird flu or Asian flu, you've got to wash your shoes. It's a terrible thing. So watch out for the waiters. Treat waiters like human beings, which they are. Actually, a lot of waiters, and I know this for a fact, a lot of waiters have degrees in various things, bachelors of science, of economics, of all kinds of stuff, but they can't earn a living with them, so they go to be waiters and waitresses. Now, I know that to be a fact in my experience. So, I've already meandered too long, and I will let you go if you've not already gone. Thanks for looking in. Thank you for everyone who has said, get better, Terence, and I am getting better. So, thanks a lot. Next time I'm on video, I might even look a bit better, but no promises there. Okay. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Bye for now.